You are now watching the He Say She Say Sports Show, brought to you by Fitboxer Studios. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to be here today, talk about sports, and be with the homie Ralph. Let's kick it off, man.
And I'm loving the studio, man. As you guys noticed, the green screen behind us. We got our first sponsor with Fitboxer. I think I mentioned it before. Fitboxer Studios out here in Las Vegas. But I'm ready to start the show, man.
All right.
With the likes of people like the Nuggets, the Celtics, you can even say the Pelicans to a certain degree, it's been some disappointing starts to our NBA season. Who would you say has been the most disappointing?
I believe the team that's been the most disappointing for me personally was the Boston Celtics. The reason why I say the Boston Celtics is you're talking about a team that had a chance to actually reach the NBA Finals last season. They had a 2-0 lead on the Miami Heat. I felt that they had the mismatch on them, and now they're currently 17-17, about 500 this season. Now, people might be like, well, they have a Jaylen Brown. They have a Jason Tatum, guys that are made the All-Star team. Tatum an All-Star starter, and Jaylen Brown an All-Star reserve. Currently, Jason Tatum's averaging 25 points per game on 43% shooting, 37% from three. Jaylen Brown, 25 points per game on 50% shooting and 39% from three. But while those two guys are excelling this season, their team around them hasn't been excelling this season. And part of that to do is with the coach, Brad Stevens, his lack of good late game execution in games that has cost them some games. Then I'm looking at Tatum and Jaylen, and I feel like they need to take that next leap forward in elevating their teammates around them. Yes, you can score. Yes, you can score in the post, isolation, etc. But can you play make? Can you get more open looks for your guys, especially a team that's been devoid of bench production? You're having to deal with a rookie in Peyton Pritchard, who's come in and has played relatively well in spurts and games, but he's a rookie. Then you had a Jeff Teague, which most people don't even know that was on the Boston Celtics this year, right? So I look at that, and I'm like, okay, they need to elevate that bench production. They signed Tristan Thompson money, right? They got him in the offseason to be a rim protector, but I always said that he's not really a rim protector. He's more of a hustle rebounder. He's averaging about eight and a half rebounds a game. That's what he's doing. So they need that, an Andre Drummond like. They need a Rudy Gobert like. So I look at the Boston Celtics, and I'm blaming the coach, and I'm also blaming the two guys who need, or I don't like to use the word blame, but I expect even a little more from a Jason Tatum and a Jaylen Brown. We know Jason Tatum is a prolific scorer, but if he can elevate those teammates around him, I believe that the Boston Celtics can hit their stride. They've won 2 straight, and we'll see what happens moving forward. So currently, as it stands, I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics. How about you, Ralph?
For me, currently, right now, I got the Nuggets are probably my most disappointing team. I would have said the Heat, but injuries, COVID, all of that, and they're playing really well right now. Maybe even the Pelicans, but the Pelicans just beat the Jazz, so we'll see what's going on forward with that. And they're a young team too. So, but the Nuggets and how far they went. Michael Porter, how much stuff he was talking about, how he wanted to be the third option. Now he's finally getting it. And then the team is just not looking too good right now. They actually just beat my Bulls. No moral victories, but we took them down to the wire, and they just happened to pull away. But to go back to my point, I think that like Jokic has been balling out of his mind, so I can't really put it on him. I feel like Jamal Murray is doing what he's supposed to be doing, but I think the like Shaq would say, the others, they just haven't held up their end of the bargain. Maybe if you can go to it, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but the like Michael Porter Jr. and what he's been able to do, I don't think that he's holding in his end of the bargain and what your third option in order for you to be a championship team should be, unless your top two is just balling out of control. Because even LeBron and AD needed that third option in order for them to get to the point of where they looked like nobody could beat them.
Right.
And that ended up being Rondo last year. So, like,
okay,
I think that with what they got going on, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season and seeing what happens. I do. I don't know. I think are you surprised at how well the Suns have played?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. And before I actually answer that question, I wanted to add to that Michael Porter Jr. point. He did have COVID, and I believe he missed about like 3 weeks in January.
He did.
And I did find the stats for you. He's averaging 14 points a game, 6 rebounds, 50% from the field, 40% from three. But he kind of did a little bit of those things last year when he got in the game. He was very efficient. But the issue with Porter Jr., like you said, rookie mistakes. And he's not a good defender. He'll get you rebounds, but he kind of makes rookie mistakes on defense. But to your point about the Suns, am I surprised? I'm actually, I guess I'm going to say I am surprised in the fact that how high they are in the standings. I mean, early on they started off, I think the 2nd seed? They got as high as the 2nd seed. They're a younger team, and I felt that, and I think we talked about this before, was that with the young teams, that didn't actually make the play-in or the games, right? You know, because we went 9-0 in the bubble, and then they didn't ultimately make the playoffs. So I felt like they had more time to rest, so they were going to come fresher, you know, into the season. And so I think that helped elevate them, but also the addition of Chris Paul, right? So when they got Chris Paul, I was shocked Chris Paul went there because I thought he wanted to get it rolled to a contender. Hence why he left the Clippers and went to Houston, and that didn't happen. He was a game away, but he got injured before the Game 7. Right. So I knew that the moment he would go to the Suns, if you look at his history, he has a litany of history of elevating every single team that he goes to, young or old. So I'm like, okay, they're going to be a 2nd-round team at best. I truly believe they could at least get 1 round, but I wasn't expecting this early in the season for them to still maintain like that top 5 seeding. You know, I thought they would eventually slip as other teams get better. So I'm going to say, yeah, I am a little bit surprised. And I believe the last point was Devin Booker did make the All-Star as a reserve now.
Right.
Is it via like a KD injury, I believe, or
no? His was the Anthony Davis.
The Anthony Davis. Okay, yeah.
Anthony Davis injury.
So yeah. But how would you say in terms of the Suns? Are you more surprised, or you think they're kind of going how they should be going?
Nah, I actually called it.
Beautiful.
Me and my brother was talking about this earlier before the season was starting when they got Chris Paul, and I was like, with that team that they have, and how if Chris Paul was able to get the Thunder in a top 5 spot, I was like, he can definitely do that. And we were going back and forth because it was like, oh, these people were in the top 4, who's falling out type of thing. And so it's like, I was like, well, I didn't see the Nuggets falling out, but they're the team that happened to fall out. And so I called it. I think Chris Paul is a floor general, top 5 point guard of all time.
I agree.
You can definitely argue with that. And so, yeah, for me, I'm not really surprised, bro. Like I called it, like I said. I even got my Bulls in the playoffs, and they're in the 6th seed last time I looked. Playing pretty well. Zach LaVine is showing why he's an all-star and how he's been an all-star he should at least been an all-star for the last 3 seasons, if not the last 4 seasons, but easily the last 3.
Yeah.
And so on that end, I'm not surprised at all with the Suns and what they've been able to do. Devin Booker is when I really sat down and looked at everything, as far as the reserves from the All-Star team, I was like, I really can't argue him at any of those spots, especially when you start looking at the people that were in front of him as far as just the guards. So if we're going to go on the reserves and just throw the best players in there, then all right, I can see that argument. But if you're looking at, all right, we got to get this many guards, this many forwards, this many big men, I don't really see where you can argue him in front, because it's like, all right, cool, you got Steph and Luka ended up being starters. But then you got Dame, Chris Paul, Donovan Mitchell, and then I think he's the 4th guard. But it's like, I can't argue. And Donovan Mitchell got his team in the 1 slot. I was like, I can't argue over Dame, and then I can't really argue over Chris Paul because you were there last year. Chris Paul wasn't. Now you're on the 4th seed, so I'm gonna throw that to Chris Paul. And so I'm not surprised at all.
Okay. Yeah, they're a nice young team, and I'm excited to see what they do in the playoffs. You know, I think early in the season, I mean, no, it's early in the season, still early. It's the first half, but I was like, they might have a matchup with like the Lakers in the first round if they were staying a lower seed, or the Lakers. Well, the Lakers, were dropping to about like the 3 or 4 seed, pending AD and Schroeder's return. Obviously, Schroeder's come back, so yeah, but whoever they play in the first round, man, of these playoffs, when we get to the playoffs, the Western Conference as usual, it's going to be very fun. So I agree with you, man.
Yeah, and then so jumping in our next one,
Okay.
Anthony Edwards possibly has the dunk
Ooh.
of the season, if not over the last couple of years. I probably last time I see something that wild was maybe DeAndre Jordan. And that oop from Chris Paul on Brandon Knight.
Brandon Knight. Rest in peace to Brandon Knight.
Right, and his career. Because it was definitely over for him after that.
Right, man. And the Kyrie one.
And Kyrie took the ankles.
Oh, man.
But Anthony Edwards, LaMelo with a 30-piece last night. Emmanuel Quickley. Who has been the most impressive rookie to you?
Okay, so I'm going to go, and I'm going to say the chalk choice is LaMelo Ball, right? But I don't want to just be different when I say this guy, but I'm gonna go with Emmanuel Quickley. The reason why I say Emmanuel Quickley, and first and foremost, is because he's playing in the biggest market, right? He's playing in the biggest market outside of LA, of course, and that being the New York Knicks, right? So anytime you get drafted in the New York Knicks, there's a high level of expectation for you. He's playing for the New York Knicks. He's playing for Coach Thibodeau, right? Who's gonna give guys a lot of minutes, and he's tough on his players, but you know he's a solid coach, okay, right? And Emmanuel Quickley, his game is reminiscent of one Lou Williams, right? And let me see if I actually did I have his stats pulled up for me? Not quite, but I'll have to find them soon. But yeah, with Emmanuel Quickley, pretty much he's a guy who's come in and he showed poise. I know from the top that he was shooting like almost close to 40% from three. I believe it was 38% from three. He was averaging like 12.2 points per game this season, right? And he had a game versus the Clippers when before the game, he was like, you know, I watched you and I idolized you growing up, to Lou Williams. So you got to think about how Lou Will feels, right?
Right.
And this is a guy who he comes off screens and hits threes well. He has consistency from the deep range three. He knows how to hold defenders off on the side of his hip, get that bump, and get a layup. He has runners and floaters. He can split the defense, and he has what I call great poise for a rookie. He's coming off the bench, and he's providing that Lou Will, Jordan Clarkson-esque scoring for them. Previously, he was getting more minutes before they acquired, obviously, a Derrick Rose to that team, which I was actually kind of surprised Derrick Rose went there. I thought that was more of a lateral career move, but that's another topic for another day. I know his relationship with Coach Thibodeau. But Emmanuel Quickley, just to be in that market, be under that coach, and kind of be, I guess, under the radar to some degree while we talk about the LaMelo Balls, while we talk about an Obi Toppin, right? Obi Toppin's another guy who's also on the same team. Now, Obi obviously got injured. So you got to think about that. And I think in terms of just his distance that he has to travel is a lot harder. So I'm going to go with Emmanuel Quickley. Has really impressed me so far this season. How about you?
At first, I want to argue LaMelo, because that's my boy.
Yeah.
I love Lonzo too, so I love the whole Ball family.
Yes.
LeVar, I'm a huge fan of his as well and what he's been able to do, where he's been able to get his boys. But I wanted to argue LaMelo, but I feel like everybody's going to go with him as the most impressive. So I'm going to go with Tyrese Halliburton, who I am actually quite upset. He didn't have start off the season like I thought he would. I thought he would ball out. And I had him on my fantasy team.
Okay.
And then I dropped him. Okay. Because I needed some more big men. And then after that, my man just starts going off. And so at this point, he's averaging 13 points a game, got about 4 rebounds and 5 assists. And all of that is coming off the bench because he's behind De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield. He just had a 23-9 game, 23-9-5 against the Brooklyn Nets with 3 steals and 4 threes made as a rookie point guard. So, like, I think that he's got a bright future. He was someone that I would have really when going into the draft, he was somebody I would have liked for the Bulls to try to get. But then I was just like, when you really think about it, we already got Kobe White and Zach LaVine, so we don't need no more guards.
Too many guards.
Yeah,
you know,
too
many
guards
cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so with him, like he's definitely impressed me. Anthony Edwards has actually impressed me, especially with the comments that was made and like the stuff that started coming out after once the season was starting, where it was like, oh, he really wants to rap, or he would have played football if somebody was to try to sign him rather than basketball. So I was like, I'm kind of worried. If I was a Timberwolves fan, I'd have been feeling some type of way.
Like he said, what?
I'm like, wait, what? How's our number one pick talking about doing other stuff in the game in the season?
How dare you?
Technically, his career ain't started yet.
Blasphemy.
Exactly. And so it's like, yeah, like with that, I've been definitely impressed with that. James Wiseman has impressed me with his ability to be exactly what they need as far as a long rim protector, a pick and roll to the basket. He can even pick and pop with the three.
Draymond's replacement.
Exactly.
Or Eric Pascal. Anyway.
But that's a conversation for another day.
I had to put that in there.
Triple single. My man, triple single.
I need to stop taking shots at Draymond.
Hey, he brought it on himself, man. Talking about he better than Chuck. Like, get out of here, bro. Man. That is why you're a wildling. Hey, somebody that's actually I've been very impressed with and he's on my team, Patrick Williams.
Okay, tell me about it. Tell me about him. Talk.
And he's definitely with the absence of Lauri Markkanen.
Okay.
They've been playing him at the 4. I think that's one of the things that surprised me. I was watching the game with my brother the other day, and I was like, dang, he's playing the 4? And I was like, I seen on 2K that they had him listed at the 4. But then I was just like, that's wild because he's a whole 3. So I'm like, I don't get where that's coming from. But 10 points, 5 rebounds, a little over assist a game. Over the last couple of weeks, he's up that rebound to 7 a game. So it's like he just has so much poise. He doesn't feel like he gets lost in the moment. Shoot, not that he went toe to toe with LeBron, but he was guarding him. You could tell he was not afraid of the moment, or even just the fact that you're guarding arguably maybe the GOAT compared to that some people would say.
He has that natural confidence that he exudes.
Yeah, and his teammates they say his teammates love his stone cold demeanor, and so it's like I've definitely been impressed with his he has that 3-and-D component to him, as well as the in this small ball era, him being like was only 19, 20 years old, but he came in at a legit 6'8", 6'9", 230, 240. He had an NBA ready body at such a young age. So like I've been very impressed with what he's been able to do. Just got to keep shouting out my Bulls.
Hey, I ain't mad at you, man, because those are the teams that we shout them out now, so then people aren't, surprised when they go off, later on in a year or two or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? Coaching and development, player development is huge. I mean, look at the Lakers. The Horton Tuckers and the Caruso. So you never know what the Chicago Bulls could turn into, man. So I definitely appreciate
Horton Tucker
that.
is somebody that it irritates me that he got away from us, because I'm like, he's from Chicago.
Okay.
And it's like, for him to go so long without getting picked up, then you find he's picked up by the Lakers.
Right.
And it's like, man, that's whack. Like, bro, he should be a Bull.
And that boy is strong, man. You see that when the first game they played against the Clippers, when he ripped the ball from Kawhi?
Yeah. But he's big, man. He's
like a nice.
He's like 6'4", 6'5", 230.
Like strong 6'5". Yeah.
And I was
like
just
that,
like,
man.
that's what's up, man. And I like his game too, man. So like, I knew something was up when LeBron started. I think he's probably been the most impressive, but he's been kind of sometimes inconsistent. I looked at his stat line the other day. Homie only had like 5 shots.
Yeah. He with Horton Tucker as a Laker fan, like when I look at him, he has he's definitely aggressive, right? Or should I say assertive, right? He's an assertive player and everything. But there are defenses have started to figure out that one move that he goes to, that spin move that he likes to go to and everything. So they're starting to kind of play him a certain way. But over time, I feel like, because he's still young, he'll develop into something. But yeah, it's the shot distribution, because they have to get Schroeder in there. Kuz has to get his shots, right? You know what I'm saying? And then Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell is all about getting his isolations. Right. He loves to do that dribble back. So when Horton Tucker gets in there, Horton got 3 shots a game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Don't get him in fantasy. So yeah. But he'll make a a solid play at the opportune time, whether it be defense or just slash into the basket. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I like about THT, as we call him. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, man, I'm ready to. Do you know if they're gonna do a rookie game?
You know what? I'm not quite
Or
sure.
are they just doing dunk contests?
They're doing dunk contests as well as a 3-point shootout contest. So those things will be there, and a skills challenge.
Okay. Are they still doing that at halftime, or is there Saturday? Is there going to be the Saturday event and Sunday?
Yeah, it's going to be Saturday. All the events is going to be Saturday on. Excuse me. The events are going to be on Saturday, and then the actual game would be Sunday.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been and a little bit of controversy happened over the weekend.
Oh boy, controversy. Controversy sells.
My man, and I apologize if I just slaughtered this man's name.
Mm-hmm.
But Zlatan Ibrahimovic had some strong words to say about LeBron and his activism, saying that politics belong to politicians. If you want to get into politics, be a politician. If you want to be an athlete, be an athlete. LeBron has been very outspoken, which I think, and I'm going to go into it a little bit later, but I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah.
Has been doing this thing as far as his activism as being one of the most powerful athletes in this modern era.
Mm-hmm.
Is Zlatan tripping, or should LeBron chill out and shut up and dribble?
Okay, that's Laura Ingram would say. You know what I'm saying? And we don't advocate the shut up and dribble over here, guys. Just to let you guys know. But first and foremost, I just want to say that is he tripping or not? My big issue is this, right? And here's just how I personally feel, right? So I understand where I guess you could say both guys were coming from, because everyone's allowed to have a stance. But my issue was, as a man, as an individual, I don't care if an athlete, politician, whatever, as a grown man, right, you don't have the right, especially if you're not someone's boss, okay, to tell another grown man or individual or a woman or whoever how they should go about, activism or what they should or should not say, because we have freedom of speech, right, in this country, right?
Right.
So I had an issue with him saying, okay, LeBron James, you should only do this or you shouldn't do this, right? Okay. Secondly, and I think this is a different question, but I'm just kind of adding in there, should athletes talk about activism? I feel like that is upon the athlete in terms of whether they choose, whether they want to or not. It shouldn't be, okay, the owner or somebody should tell, because once again, freedom of speech, right? So LeBron James has always, should I say more recently he's done this, right? And so because he's come out and, spoken on certain topics, has been criticized for it, and he's going to continue to do it, he has every right to do that, right? Then LeBron James came out, right, and he pretty much fired back. I believe it was like via Twitter about how Zlatan spoke about facing racism, I guess part of his own country based off his surname or his last name not being, which is like a Swedish last name or something along those lines. But and so his statement to LeBron was, racism and politics are two different things. Athletes unite the world, politics divide it. He's like, everyone is welcome in our environment. It doesn't matter where you come from, and we are doing everything to bring people together. My message, athletes should be athletes, politicians should be politicians. Well, first of all, okay, athletes, just like debates, right? That can divide too, because you're going to have different views of different things, different ways sports should be played, whatever. So there's going to be division there, right? Politics, same way, but they also unite. So you can't just say politics are the only thing that divides people, right? So I'm pretty much saying in a nutshell, my bigger issue was him telling LeBron James, like, you have to say don't say this or whatever. So I don't actually think that athletes should or should not, speak on activism. I don't want people to think, oh, you're riding the fence, but I hope people kind of get what I'm kind of saying there, you know what I'm saying? So I just feel like he shouldn't have came at LeBron that way, if that makes sense, without going too much on like a tangent. But what are your views on it? You know what I'm saying?
I definitely, I think he should be quiet and shut up.
Yeah, yeah. He's a little more direct.
He should be quiet and just worry about scoring goals.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
How are you gonna do exactly what you just said and then try to be like, well, this is racism, it's not politics. But it's like, well, LeBron didn't really get into politics. He just had an opinion about the president.
Thank you.
The president didn't like what he had to say. Then after that, he got really, really involved in politics.
Yeah.
But then it's like, has he really got to a point of like saying, "Oh, I'm running for this or I'm running for that"? He's really just done stuff for his community. Then it was like, all right, cool, where we gonna vote? Oh, they trying to rig the vote in a sense. I'm gonna make sure that I play for the Lakers, that LA is gonna make sure that they have a stadium that we're not using already to for people to be able to go vote. So it's like, I think that people gotta stop having this conversation of like, when you talk about something that's a racist issue, or like if I come out and say, well, cops need to stop killing unarmed black people, it's now you're talking about politics. And it's like, when did that become political?
Right. So
for me to say that killing unarmed people is, regardless of race, gender, or whatever's going on, if you shoot someone
social justice
who can't even defend themselves, you have them their hands tied behind their back, and then you shoot them or beat them to death. When did that become a political issue? Like, that is a social injustice issue.
Thank you.
If not just a moral right versus wrong. And so it's like, for stuff like that, it really gets on my nerves, and that's why I feel so strongly, and homie just need to be just shut up.
Yeah.
On if you're gonna have anything to say, especially when like you're from a whole other country, and you might not understand like the plight of
the black man
in America,
or a minority in general.
Exactly.
There you go.
And then like, I mean, he probably feels some way like, oh, you're a minority where he lives, like, or where he's from. But it's like, bro, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get it to a certain degree if you really truly don't understand it, but then with how old he is, that's just willful ignorance. And so it's like, I can't condone that. I won't condone that. And that's how I feel about it.
And I wanted to piggyback on what you're saying, or should I say add to what you're saying. And that's why I'm glad you kind of put it so well put, right? When you talked about like the social justice or a moral right or wrong issue, right? Let's say, like when you said the killing cops and whatever, right? So let's say it was a situation like that and it happened to an unarmed black person, right? Or we look at the Jeremy Lin, allegation or situation, right? With the Asian community or whatever, right? And the facing racism. Jeremy Lin is Asian, right? So he has every right to speak on said issue, right? Or killing of unarmed black people. LeBron James has every right to speak on said issue. Why? Well, think about what he himself faces because of the way he looks, right? And the plight he endures. So he has the right to speak about said issue. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that per se another person of a different race can't speak on that issue, right? But if LeBron James comes and says it, he definitely has, should I say, I guess you could say it's more like credence or whatever, because of that could be everyday life for him. You know what I'm saying? So he definitely has that situation, just like me and you, right?
Right.
So that's kind of where I'm kind of going with it. So he shouldn't tell anyone to be like, okay, you can't, like, dude, who are you? Right. So he doesn't understand the I guess you could say the full picture, or sometimes choose not to understand the full picture. Also, the last thing I wanted to say, why did he himself feel so adamant to come out and say this about LeBron James? And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to spew anything that was false, right? But did he mention LeBron James the first go around, or was he just implying? And that's which I think was also another issue that people had. Like, if you're just implying, you know what I'm talking about, and then you come out the second time around and say it. So it's like, why were you so adamant, about the situation with LeBron, whatever? And once again, he's in a different country. So I actually thought that was kind of an eyebrow raiser. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Did you feel the same way? You know that?
And when I first seen it, I was just like,
dude, it came out of left field.
Yeah, like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. Like, you feel some? I need to go back and read this article,
right,
or watch this interview, whatever it was, and see the context of like how did LeBron get brought up? Was LeBron asked in the question,
right,
or was he just talking about activism and then he went straight to LeBron because LeBron is the most iconic athlete who has been the most outspoken,
right,
since
2010 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And so it's
For
like,
this decade.
yeah, and at least in his last decade, he's been the most outspoken iconic athlete, in that I can think of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, with that, it came out of left field. But honestly, if you grown, my mom told me let grown folks be grown folks and do grown folks. And so, yeah, I can't condone that. You telling anybody to not, if you feel like you want to make this world a better place, go do it. Now, unless you out here doing some wild stuff like trying to, I'm gonna have children with my children to make a pure breed, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, now you're tripping, bro. Get up out of here with that.
And I think with that we can
head on to the next topic.
To the next topic, man.
Get out of here with that.
Oh man, bro, that was a good one, man. Woo! Oh man.
But J.J. Watt signs a 2-year contract with the Cardinals. Russell Wilson wants out. Matthew Stafford is traded to the Rams. Jimmy G could possibly be traded. Nick Bosa's coming back from injury. What is the biggest storyline to you in the NFC West? What should we be worried about the most?
So I'm gonna hit you with this, right? I'm gonna go with the chalk, and I have to go with the chalk. The reason why I go with the chalk, I'll break it down for you. It has to be Russell Wilson. The reason why I say it has to be Russell Wilson is because what is the number one and most important position on the football field that is not left tackle?
Right.
That's it's the quarterback position, right? Because the quarterback position, we saw it in the Super Bowl, Jimmy G versus Tom Brady. Jimmy G threw that errant pass over Emmanuel Sanders' head, on that 3rd and 10 play. I still have it ingrained in my brain. Or Tom Brady, who's poised and collective. All right, so it's always the quarterback because of the most important position. That doesn't mean that there's other impactful positions on the field, but it's always a quarterback. So because a quarterback on the football field is the most important and most pivotal and most cerebral and all that kind of stuff on the football field, therein lies the answer. I have to go with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, not only is it because this isn't a CFL quarterback, no offense to people in the CFL, this isn't an AFL level quarterback, Canadian Football League quarterback. This is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, someone who I presume is the second best quarterback in the NFL, someone who I presume at one point in time in 2000, I want to say it was 17 or 18, I think it was 18, I truly believed and was very adamant should have won the NFL MVP award if we are going based off of value to the team, right? But Brady won. So I have to go with Russell Wilson. Anytime you have a quarterback not being necessarily traded, but voicing a demand to be out of some place, right, from his own camp, that is something that cannot be taken lightly, right? So I'm going to go with the Russell Wilson quarterback situation because that can shake up the NFC. And if he leaves, that also opens the door for a lot of other teams in the NFC, I still believe. Because with Russell Wilson, have the Seahawks ever missed the playoffs with him as the quarterback starting? I don't believe so, right?
No.
There you go. So could he move to the AFC? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Things of that nature and join that trio of quarterbacks and create, like, I guess, was it a quartet? 4? Of a Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, a Deshaun Watson, all these guys who are MVP caliber quarterbacks. One's an MVP, one's a Super Bowl MVP, et cetera, right? So I have to go with Russell Wilson. What about you?
Me, myself, I personally think that although and Russell Wilson did miss the playoffs one time. Okay. One time in his career.
I must have slept through that season, but it's okay.
And so, but I would personally go, even though I think that J.J. Watt, who is only 31 years old, I didn't realize he was my age. I was gonna say I really thought he was about a good 35.
Man, you age him that much, bro?
Yeah, bro. It feel like he's been around for forever.
Man. I was like 35, man.
Yeah,
okay,
I really thought I thought he was
35,
I thought he was on his way out the door.
Like,
bro, if you're 31, he got a good 4 years.
Right.
He should at least, unless his body just breaks down that much. And I know he's been hurt, but when you have to do so much, you have to give so much effort and exert so much energy.
It aged him.
Yeah. And so, like, as much as I want to go with that because, like, him.
That was the most shocking, I think.
Buda Baker, yes, because nobody had. We did this. We talked about this last week, and neither one of us even went as far as Arizona.
Right.
And so with him, Buda Baker, Simmons, yeah, I just think like an aging Patrick Peterson, but he still be able to do his thing. He's no slouch out there. He's just a little older. So I think that on defense, it will make a difference, but I can't go without saying Matthew Stafford to the Rams is the biggest deal for me because he's never had a running game. And maybe you had one season, I think they ended up going really far or at least had a really good record.
Facts. They put I think the Seahawks one time in the wild card or divisional round.
I want to say he went 11-5 when he finally had a run game. Mm-hmm. Defense has always been
trash.
Buns.
Trash.
Booty cheeks.
Basura.
And so, like, with that, and then now he has an Aaron Donald, a Jalen Ramsey on defense, a slew of wide receivers, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Akers, and I want to say, what's their running back? What's the other running back that got hurt and Akers started hooping?
Is it Darryl something? No, not Darryl. I know who you're talking about. On the Rams? On the Rams?
Is it Malcolm Brown?
No, Malcolm Brown. I don't know if he's still on the team, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I think wasn't he like a rookie or something like that? Or like a second year guy? I think I know who you're talking about.
I don't remember the name.
We can always, I'll find it for you.
Always look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Got to confirm it.
Yeah.
And then so with that, I think he finally has a team that could, and with Sean McVay as the coach, like, man, I see this team going far.
Darrell Henderson, excuse me.
Right. Mm-hmm. I see the team going far. So I don't think that can be understated or not at least brought to the light. I do think J.J. Watt's going to make a difference. I am curious to see what happens with the quarterback position in San Fran. Are they willing to admit they made a mistake and trade Jimmy G, or are they going to rock with him?
Right.
Especially with the contract that he got. Like, I wouldn't take that contract on. I don't. Even if I'm the Bears, I still.
$1 billion.
I would just rather try to pick somebody up or just draft a quarterback. I'm not taking on that contract, especially when you're trying to keep an Allen Robinson or something like that. Yeah. And so I personally don't think they're willing to admit they made a mistake and trade him. But we will see with that.
I actually like what you said with the Matthew Stafford because I don't want to say it slipped my mind, but it wasn't the first thought. But also, once again, it goes kind of back to what I had said about the quarterback being the most pivotal position, right?
Right. And
so you mentioned a quarterback, and when we look at the Rams, to your credit, Ralph, that was a team that I used to always tell you and my fellow friends and stuff. I was like, I really like this Rams team defensively. They also have the underrated duo in Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp?
Right.
Okay. And
they are very underrated.
Yeah. And I was like, Jared Goff, Jared Goff's not trash, but he's like a very, very average quarterback. And I remember I was like, I almost picked him to go to the Super Bowl, but I was like, you know what? Sean McVay was getting on Jared Goff because he wasn't taking that next step. And I was like, well, how'd they get to the Super Bowl the first time around? And I was like, you know what? They had an offensive player of the year in Todd Gurley. So if you take away that, you improve the defense, but you still lost a major piece in that zone run scheme offense in Todd Gurley, then you're not still the best team. So if you you either bring back another running back, right, which they didn't necessarily do, or you fix the most important position, or should I say elevate it by bringing in a quality or higher quality quarterback, to your point, Matthew Stafford. So this is going to be very interesting to see how it goes. So I actually like your pick right there for the Rams, man.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. Like I'm definitely rocking with that one.
Yeah.
Because I do think that the Rams are going to end up making, barring no injury or no wild things happen as far as COVID messing with anything. But with the vaccinations, I don't really see that happening. I really think that I can see the light. I can see the mountaintop as far as that situation. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time. I do think that, barring no injury, I do think that the Rams will do pretty well, go pretty far. But yeah, man, as far as the Shannon Sharp had some strong words.
Yes, he did.
And I was conflicted at first. The moment he was on I seen his tangent. I was like, ooh, not Mike Tomlin, that's my boy.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I started listening to what he was saying, I really started thinking about it. And I was just like, as long as I can remember, I really couldn't tell you a black coordinator that the Steelers have had. And then since Mike Tomlin has been there, I really couldn't tell you outside of Mike Tomlin.
Right.
And so, like, I was like, yeah, I feel him. Is his 14 years of being a coach. And then the whole thing of, we hire from within.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was telling my mom, I was just like, yeah, and he took a lie detector test. And Maury decided that or realized that was a lie, bro. Like, you've definitely hired from outside before. And so it's like, normally the Steelers do technically when you come from within. But then there are those outliers, and Todd Haley is the offensive coordinator. And so it's like, with stuff like that, that's when it starts getting, it becomes a sticky situation for me. Because I'm like, as much as I want to go out and defend Mike Tomlin and say, like, but I think the other things is why I wouldn't necessarily attack him too much is how outspoken he is on other aspects of it. I think for him, it's more of like, I don't really want to ruffle any feathers. Some people feel like, because I felt this way when it came with Obama, which is, I'll make this example, without going too far into politics.
Right.
People expected Obama to just get in there and be like, oh man, he gonna free all these black people, we gonna get reparations, and then we gonna do this, and it's just like, he would be doing too much by going just way far right.
Okay.
So like, people expect like, like you can do a Bruce Arians, but then it takes a Bruce Arians in order for that to be acceptable. Where people wouldn't look at it. Like, I think going forward, if, let's just say Tall Bowles gets a head coaching job, if he had an all-black staff or an all-black coordinator staff, like, I don't think it would be that negatively looked at if he did that because of what Bruce Arians was able to do. So, but then I do think at the same time, when you look at that as on the flip side of that coin, a Bruce Arians had a Tom Brady. So a lot of people feel like, oh yeah, Byron Leftwich did his thing, and the media is praising him for what he was able to do.
Right.
But when you talk to the average fan is not thinking about Byron Leftwich. They think, well, Tom Brady brought the Patriot way and the Patriots offense to this, and it has more to do with Tom Brady than it does with Byron Leftwich. And so it's like, for me, I honestly didn't realize that Byron Leftwich was the offensive coordinator until probably it might have been like week 10.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I feel it, man. Like, I definitely understand, and Shannon Sharp, I'm a huge fan of his, so I definitely rock with what he said, and the fact that he even brought it up, and among the other things that he's brought up on the show, big shout out to him. What are your thoughts on it, man?
Okay, so before I give my thoughts, I just kind of wanted to break down for some of the people who don't know what the Rooney Rule is. I know there's fans that do, but I always like to kind of give the definition. So the Rooney Rule, right, is the Rooney Rule is a National Football League policy that requires league teams to interview ethnic minority coaches or candidates for head coaching and senior football operation jobs, right? And it was actually named after Dan Rooney, the former owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers and former chairman of the league's diversity committee, which is where I guess you could say there was cause for controversy or hypocrisy in that when we look at the Steelers organization opposed to someone like the Las Vegas Raiders, which formerly was known as the Oakland Raiders, who under, the late great Al Davis, right, had hired guys of ethnic minorities and people of color and things of that nature in those roles. Okay, so we're looking at Mike Tomlin, and I actually agree with your stance on that situation and Shannon Sharp's stance. So you just can't sit up here and be like, oh well, I think he specifically said that I hired the best fit for the job. Okay, well when you run any type of operation, you always want someone who is the best at what they do, or should I say innovative maybe, or should I say a leadership role, whatever that may have be, if that can come in different shapes, sizes, and colors, right? So you can't tell me that and he said I hire within as well. So you can't tell me that there's nobody out there, of color that doesn't fit, the description for the roles, the leadership roles or the best person for the job. You can go into the college ranks, you know what I'm saying? You always want to talk about tradition. Well, sometimes we got to be very careful when we talk about the old way of things, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But so yeah, that was a little, I guess you could say disappointing on that behalf. Now, I do want to say I do know Jerry Porter. I believe he was part of, I think, a linebackers coach. I'm not sure if that was under Tomlin or he was just like some form of like assistant or intern or whatever. But you might remember. I remember Jerry Porter, or is that on the Dolphins? I will definitely find the information if we could definitely find that out. But I know Jerry Porter, he was a former Steelers linebacker, and I know that he had some type of role in years past, but I think he might have actually had a DUI, and then that situations came arise. But I'm not sure if that was under Mike Tomlin. But either way, there's not been anyone like in a prominent role that we know of. And as a Ravens fan that I have known of, seeing the Steelers, 2 times a year. So for Shannon Sharpe to kind of come out and say that he felt something to his heart, and he has every right to present his own side, perspective, sentiment, what have you, that may be. And so hopefully in the future we can actually start to see, more people of color in those roles. And I know I think the initial topic we talked about was Eric Bieniemy, right?
Right.
And I just find it hard to believe that Eric Bieniemy, he's not calling plays or, et cetera. Now, yes, there are some times when people don't interview well, but you mean to tell me that Eric Bieniemy is not over there coaching up people? I remember personally when the Ravens were playing against the Kansas City Chiefs on that prime time in week 3, that massacre of a game. But I remember Eric Bieniemy on the sideline immediately after Devin Duvernay scored that kickoff, because they had the actual cameras on him, and he was coaching up people on the sidelines and all that kind of stuff. And we used to hear about Eric Bieniemy and all his greatness, but in the moment that it's interview time, we don't hear about that greatness anymore. You know what I'm saying? We only hear the negative things. So I thought that was kind of very intriguing, to say the least. But yeah, so I'm actually in agreement in terms of the perspective that you guys both share. So we'll see what happens and what steps are made in the Steelers organization moving forward.
And then is to give us some information. It was Joey Porter.
Okay, Joey Porter. I keep saying Jerry Porter. I don't know why.
And he was a linebacker coach.
Okay.
And they parted ways with him, and then they brought him back as a defensive assistant coach.
Thank you very much.
Which, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a job. So it's not to minimize the fact that he does have a job with the Steelers. Mm-hmm. But as far as the coordinator, there's a difference between just being a linebacker coach and then being the defensive coordinator.
Oh yeah.
And so it's not that I'm coming at you in any type of way. But just to let the people know.
Yep.
There's definitely a difference between the two. And so that's where we're having these conversations where these athletes, and even when Kyrie and his statements as far as black head coaches in the NBA, it's like all of these athletes are, not all of them, but majority of them are black. And so it's like, how can all these athletes get to the point where they're at the top of their game, and a lot of them are black, but when they're done playing, or even the representation of the game itself, as far as from a business standpoint, or the face of the franchise, when it's the head coach or coordinator, GM, general manager, or anything like that, why is it's typically a white face? And so it's like, is it are you coming to me and telling me is it an intellect thing that you really, which is why I think that people have that issue with why there aren't any black coaches, because at one point the feedback that we would get is that we were not smart enough to play the quarterback position, or we weren't smart enough to play it's best, we're just better athletes, and we react faster. So now you put us at skill positions rather than being a person that's analytical, breaking down film and looking at defenses. And that's why we're not getting these positions. So I think that's where that history stems from, and why people have that issue when we start talking about black coaches and things like that. So I'm not like, I'm interested to see if Tomlin reacts to it. I don't think he will, but we'll see. But then here to the last part of what we got going here today.
The final countdown.
I have really been waiting on this. I seen this thing and I seen this
how dare he?
The kid Gowie
yeah.
posted. I actually, before you sent it to me, I had already seen it, but it was us comparing stats in 2019 for Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. So it got me thinking, and you guys can see the question down low. Is Lamar Jackson a top 5 quarterback? And I asked this question on my Instagram and Facebook, and I was surprised, man. It was a lot of people, even some people that I have like intelligent sports, football, basketball conversations with. Not that this is basketball or anything, but just to say, like, I have real conversations as far as from the sports realm with these people. So I definitely respect their opinions, and some of them even came out and said no. And so I was just like, that's crazy to me. That, like, right. And I definitely disagree, but I'm going to let you go first. And I know that's your boy, so that's why I'm going to let you go first.
All right, man. The gloves are off, man. Play that Cannabis second round knockout, please.
Doom.
All right.
Doom. 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 Doom.
The world don't want me to shine.
Right,
anyway,
right.
All right. Okay, so look, man. Yes, I am from Baltimore, Maryland. That's where I'm from. I am a Baltimore Ravens fan. Lamar Jackson is my favorite quarterback, my favorite athlete in all the sports right now. But I'm also objective. But is Lamar Jackson a top 5 quarterback? Yes. First and foremost, he won an MVP. When you won an MVP, that means you're the most valuable player in the league. Let's stop the crap. Let's stop the cap. When people say, "Oh, the MVP, he's the best player," no, the MVP is not the best player in the world. You know, that is either Aaron Donald, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes. You know, in my personal opinion, you know, you can throw Jalen Ramsey at his position, but he's the most valuable. What that means is what Lamar Jackson does for the offense, for the entire offense. Pretty much barely anyone else can do in the National Football League. People really need to start getting this through their skulls. I'm sorry, I just have to say it, right? So the graphic is this, right? The numbers are closer than you think, courtesy of CBS. All right, 2019, 2020. That was this past season. Patrick Mahomes 25-4 record. Lamar 24-6. Patrick Mahomes 64 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Lamar Jackson 62 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. Completion percentage for Lamar, 65.3%. Mahomes, 66.1%. Quarterback rating, 106.9. Lamar, 106.6. 76 total touchdowns, which includes rushing and passing touchdowns, compared to Patrick Mahomes, 68, right? So here's his situation, right? Okay, so Lamar Jackson, right? He has the innate ability where he can take the football, right? And he can make a huge play and run into the house in one play. If you don't believe me, look at the Tennessee Titans game, right? So you just can't be like, well, if you take away his legs. No, he proved last season, right, that he was actually really good at throwing from the pocket. Does he struggle at times throwing outside the numbers? Yes. But who does he have around him, right? He has no all-pro wide receivers, okay? Patrick Mahomes had 2. He had a Travis Kelce. He had a Tyreek Hill, right? He had a offensive line prior to the Super Bowl, okay, right? He has the best play caller in sports. Terrell Owens even mentioned Andy Reid. He's like, what makes the offense so great? He's like, Mahomes is amazing, but he's like, Andy Reid, man. Andy Reid. So that is a consensus. They like the Sean Paytons, the Andy Reids. Who does Lamar Jackson have? He has Greg Roman, who has an archaic playbook, which is just predicated off RPOs and things of that nature. Therefore, Lamar Jackson, a lot of times, he has to improvise. Patrick Mahomes might have more passing yards, but quarterback rating and completion percentage is a far more better indicator than passing yards. If you don't believe me, look at Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has, I believe, led the NFL before in passing yards, and no one's saying that Jameis Winston is a top 3 quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the NFL, right? If you take Lamar Jackson off this team, you can't put a Tom Brady in there, you can't put a Drew Brees in there and expect them to run RPOs, okay, period. Furthermore, right, they lost right tackle, their Pro Bowl left tackle last season, and Ronnie Stanley during the Steelers game, okay? They lost Marshall Yanda to retirement, okay, during the offseason, okay? Lamar Jackson caught COVID, okay? Lamar Jackson came in after cramping in the Browns game, right, in the fourth quarter, and off the strength, just off the strength, right? He threw that touchdown pass dead on to Hollywood Brown, man. He was able to improvise that. That is huge. Do you know how hard it is for a quarterback to come in without warming up on the sideline, without doing all those stretches, without throwing footballs? Okay. He was able to beat a rival in Tennessee. Okay. So Lamar Jackson is extremely, extremely valuable to this team. Furthermore, the Baltimore Ravens, they missed the playoffs 3 years in a row. 4 out of the last 5 seasons, but 3 years straight consecutively. They were 4-5, and John Harbaugh was on the hot seat. Everyone remembers it. There was talk of John Harbaugh potentially going to the Cincinnati Bengals if they got rid of him. And what happens? He changes the entire offense for one Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson comes in with Martin Morningwig and was able to win. He comes in with Greg Roman and was able to win. So for me, I'm sick and tired of people always trying to take shots. They don't have the facts. They don't watch Baltimore Ravens football games. I know this for a fact. They listen to these guys in the mainstream, the media and all that, who don't watch the Baltimore Ravens football games, and they don't know about the actual inside and out of the football team. Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback in this league. I believe he is the most valuable. I believe he is the most dynamic. I do not believe he is the best quarterback. I believe that is Patrick Mahomes. But, hey, opinions over statistics, of course. I'm out.
Drops mic. But yeah, man. So I really was kind of interested, and I was actually really surprised that I thought it would at least be split. Mm-hmm. How do you win an MVP and then even a season after the next season after that? People don't even consider you a top 5 quarterback. That's just insane to me. But to get into my research, and I'm gonna give you exactly my numbers and why I think that he is. So I looked up and I got 7 quarterbacks here, and the 7 is of the top 12 quarterbacks with the highest QBR. Oh. And the reason why I have 7 of the top 12 is there's some people that's on this list that I can't make no case for. So nobody's gonna argue that Baker Mayfield, Tannehill is number 4 in QBR for the season, and Ryan Fitzpatrick among some other people. As much as I love Derek Carr, I can't argue or him or Drew Brees. Okay. As a top 5 quarterback.
I'm actually kind of shocked because I've heard a Raiders fan specifically tell me that he was a top 5 quarterback. I'm not going to say any names, but I was kind of if you want to argue it, I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
I think he has the talent, but when you really truly and when I break down some of these stats,
and I don't want to
it will make sense.
Okay.
And so it's all right. So Aaron Rodgers is, and I have this in no particular order. So we got Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady.
Okay.
And then I think that's my list. And so with that, I'm going to break down some stuff. And so it's when you start thinking about it, you bring up no All-Pro, not even a Pro Bowl receiver. And so Aaron Rodgers got Devontae Adams, who went off for 18 touchdowns. You even had Aaron Jones get 1,100 rushing yards on 5.5 yards per carry. So it's and then Robert Tonyan had 11 touchdowns. And so it's then when you start going, you go to Pat Mahomes. He got Travis Kelce, the cheetah, and then even just a jack of all trades, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had 1,100 all-purpose yards. And so then when you go to Josh Allen, he had Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and both of which just Cole Beasley was 30 yards short of a 1,000-yard season. Mm-hmm. And you don't even, nobody thinks of Cole Beasley as this oh my God, he's this amazing talent. But he has been very consistent throughout his career. Stephon Diggs had a hell of a year. And so then after that, you get to Lamar Jackson. Now when you start thinking of his offensive weapons, the first 2 that you go to are running backs. And then after that, you get to Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews, both of which had 58 receptions. and neither one of them went over 800 yards. But then when you start breaking down, and this is where analytics and next generation stats come in, the separation, I looked this up too. He had of the 7 quarterbacks that I named, he had the lowest separation. His receivers had the lowest separation at 3 yards of separation, where like Aaron Rodgers had all his receivers had almost 4 yards.
Right. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Pat Mahomes, same thing, almost 4 yards. And then when you start looking at some of these receivers that they're throwing to, shoot, even Russell Wilson, he's throwing to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Tom Brady got a slew of wide receivers.
Yeah.
As well. And then Deshaun Watson, I even was a little surprised. His wasn't as bad as Lamar Jackson. I thought his would have been just as bad, but he was higher than Tom Brady's receivers. And so it's like, when you really truly start breaking it down and looking at it, it's like his receivers are just not like they're not beating their man.
Right.
The offense is booty cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like for what he's been able to do on top of that and just be everything that they need in order to cover up these deficiencies, I think that it can't be understated what he's been able to do for that franchise, for his career. And he's been much better than people have even tried to give him credit for or thought that he could ever be once getting to the league. And so it's like, it's for his numbers to be comparable to when you put what he's able to do as a weapon all together, his numbers are very comparable to a Pat Mahomes, like you said in that graphic. So it's like, it's crazy to think about, but like,
he's on that verge of like great. Well, he's great, but the team is on the verge of greatness if they just add a piece. Right. I was going to say the last one I wanted to mention was there was that stat that I'm sure people, if you have social media, Twitter, follow Pro Football Focus, follow Instagram, whatever, that Lamar Jackson's receivers had the highest drop rate. And you also have to think about the number of catchable balls that he's thrown, right? He's not, a Tim Tebow, which the haters would compare him to a Tim Tebow. Stop it, man. There was Tim Tebow would throw footballs into the stands during like preseason practices. That actually happened one time. So he's not like throwing the ball like crazy, inaccurate. So I was going to say they had the highest drop rate. Also, your help was a veteran, past his prime, Dez Bryant, who was 32 years old, coming off an Achilles, a ruptured Achilles. He was with the Saints, ruptured his Achilles in that practice, and then came back 2 seasons later. And people say that's the help that you have to give him with. Give him you missed out on a historic wide receiver draft class with the DK Metcalfs, like you mentioned, and A.J. Brown, like you mentioned, or that I just mentioned. And you look at a guy like Tannehill. Tannehill's a solid quarterback, but you have that traditional, you have that Derrick Henry behind you, right? You have A.J. Brown here. You have Corey Davis, who actually is a solid receiver, by the way, who I want the Ravens to actually try to at least go for someone like that in that offense. So when you look at even a Tannehill that was on the list, Tannehill actually has weapons, and I think he had, Jonnu Smith or a tight end over the middle. So you start looking at those things like, man, all the guys in around Lamar in the AFC or in his draft class, Baker, Josh Allen, and I think there's someone else, they have all had a premier number one receiver. We're not saying get Lamar Jackson, Jerry Rice. We're just saying get someone that can complement Lamar. You get Hollywood, but that doesn't complement Lamar. Sure, they're buddies, but he doesn't complement him on the field or his play style. So the quarterback, his second greatest relationship between that's different from the left tackle or the center and the quarterback would be the quarterback and his wide receiver. So let's see what Lamar Jackson actually does if the Baltimore Ravens pour resources into Lamar Jackson in this offseason. Hopefully that happens. So, yeah.
But thank you all for watching. Mm-hmm. Make sure you follow us, our Instagram handles that are in our name in the bottom of the screen, because we will be putting each segment, just little 10, 15-minute segments in each individual segment that we talked about on IGTV. Make sure you go on YouTube and subscribe. Just type in the spacebar, He Say, She Say, all in one word, sports show. Thank you all.